Why do you believe societies develop these taboos, whether it's sex or money?
I think it's because people derive a sense of self-worth from their money, a sense of their own value.
You
Like,
think the same with sex or?
Yeah, does sexuality
mm,
lend itself to personal
sex
identity?
is vulnerable. Sex is vulnerable. Money is more something that gives you status. What you do in the bedroom doesn't give you status, unless you're an exhibitionist, and that's another show.
That's a different.
Um, yeah, I think it's because people derive a sense of status, so they don't want you to know if they don't have a lot of money. But then people don't want you to know if they're not having a lot of sex either.
hmm
So there's this expectation that everybody's having sex and everybody has a certain amount of money. So that's how I would differentiate. Money gives you value. Sex is vulnerable.
I would think that, well, I do think that having productive money conversations involves quite a bit of vulnerability also, because it
I
causes us
agree.
to take off that mask. And so I'm curious, as a therapist doing the work that you do, what tips and tricks do you have for our listeners to help them with vulnerability, whether it's related to a money conversation or a sex conversation? Or sometimes I think there's actually a high correlation between money and sex, although it sounds like maybe that's not
It
showing
can
up in the
be.
work you're doing.
Oh, no, that shows up. Absolutely. That shows up. I would say know that having the difficult conversations is what has the most potential to enrich your conversation. People think, oh, no, that's too hard. I don't want to go there. It's too dangerous. We'll have a fight and the relationship will deteriorate. I would say it's the opposite. Have the vulnerable conversations, whether it's about what you want to do in bed or how you want to spend your money or the fact that one of you is working and the other one isn't, and how that feels, and the power differential. Have those conversations. I talk to clients about money all the time, whether they have money and how they manage it, because that's important.
Can you say a little bit more about that, Claudia?
You find it important in the work you do?
Yes, because it impacts the power differentials and whether or not people feel they have a voice. So I ask whether they have joint accounts or separate accounts and why not, and how they make those choices, how they make decisions about how to spend money. Does one person have more, voice than the other? How they make decisions about, um, investments they might make. There's wealthy couples where one person's an entrepreneur and, maybe the wife, just for the sake of, this conversation, is a stay-at-home mom and lives in luxury, but feels powerless because
Hmm.
he's the one making the decisions about the money, and she's resentful because she feels like she doesn't have a voice. And he doesn't really understand, but, you live in this beautiful house and, what's mine is yours. I can think of one couple in particular where she can get quite angry and upset about it because it's a long-standing pattern. And also, people have secret bank accounts, or they give the kids money and they say, oh, don't tell your dad, um, or they still give money to an ex-spouse and their current spouse doesn't know about it. Yeah, money's really loaded, so to speak.